Hello guys, in this video we are going to cover two more chapters. What are those chapters? First chapter will be message box, the another chapter will be input box. So now you must be thinking, what is the use of this message box and input box? Well, let me explain it for you. First, message box. Well, you are dealing with the lots of variable under that VBA and you wanted to find out what is the variable value at particular point of time. Then how would you find out? Well, you can assign that variable to the message box and message box will display its value. This is the one of the way it is going to be useful for you. What is other way? When you are making a user interface through the Excel VBA, then your user is interacting with the user form which you have created already. Now if user will be clicking something which he shouldn't be clicking or he is clicking on the wrong area, then there must be some message which should show to him that this is the wrong area, hence you have to click elsewhere, or it should give some advice to your users. That's where this message box comes into picture. If you can make any function and recall this message box, it is going to be more beneficial for you. Now let's discuss about input box. Well, suppose you wanted to calculate the area of rectangle, then what will be the rectangle area? Length into height. Now suppose you have an Excel sheet and you have created a function where you wanted to calculate this area of rectangular. Now once you will define this function and you will create this function and you will end it. Now you will be recalling it through the formula into the Excel. Once you will write the formula, it will ask you the length and height now, and it will give you the result as an area of rectangle. That's how it can help you. Now without wasting any time, let's dive into it and learn about these functions, message box and input box. Now this is the definition. The message box function displays a message box and waits for user to click a button. Until user click that button, it will not show anything else. So what is the syntax for this message function? Well, this is the syntax for this message function. This all thing will be called syntax, whereas prompt, button, title, help file, context will be called parameters. So what are these parameters and how we can use it? Let's go one by one. Now first parameter is prompt. Whatever you are going to show through that message box will be prompt. So whatever you are going to write under that message box will be called prompt. This is the simple definition. Now let's see another definition. Well, buttons. You must be knowing whenever you are displaying some message through that box, there must be one button is showing, that is OK in our last video. But what if you wanted to show more buttons? Well, you can assign some value. Particular value will be assigned to number of buttons. So what are the values you can assign so that you can get more buttons? If you assign 0, it will show OK only, or it is the by default value also. So if you don't assign any value, it will automatically take 0 as a by default value and it will show OK button only. So if you want to show more buttons, what you have to do? Well, if you wanted to show OK and cancel, you can use 1, and if you wanted to show about, retry, ignore, you can use 2, and if you wanted to show yes, no and cancel, you can use 3, and so forth and so on. You can assign these all numbers and you can see the various buttons into the Excel. Now let's discuss what is this title. You must have seen that every message box is having some header where something is written. If you see, whenever you open any application, on that header the application name will be displayed. In similar fashion, whenever the message box will appear, there will be header where this message box name will be displayed. That will be called as a title. So if you wanted to change that name, simply you can assign some title or some text to it and it will be showing into your message box. Now what next? It is the help file. Whenever you are creating any user interface form, then user will be interacting with them and he wanted to know more about it. Suppose if he wanted to click OK, yes or no, before clicking on that OK, yes or no, he wanted to know what is this all about. You can assign some button help where it will take you to some another document. It will show him what are this OK, yes or no buttons are about. Context, it is an optional parameters. A numeric expression that identifies the help context number assigned by the help author to the appropriate help topic. If context is provided, help file must be provided on that context. Now these are the values you can assign. Well, if you assign 64 to this context, then it will be information value. So it will be displaying information message icon. Now if you will assign 0, which is default value, it will be showing first button. Now if you wanted to show 256, then it will be showing second button as a by default. So you must have seen like yes or no button. So automatically one button is selected. If you wanted to select first button as a by default button, then you will assign this context value as a 0. And if you wanted to assign second button as a by default button, then you can assign this 256 and second button will be default, and so on and so forth. You can assign these all numbers and you can get by default value of buttons. Now let's talk about the modality. If you assign 0 for the application model, then the current application will not work until user responds to the message box. And if you assign 4096, then all application will not work until user click on that message box. Now the above values are logically divided into 4 groups. What are these 4 groups? First group is 0 to 5, indicates the buttons to be displayed in the message box. Now the second group is 16, 32, 48 and 64, describes the style of the icon, in what style you want it to show your icon. Now the third group 0, 256, 512, 768 indicates which button must be the default, and the fourth is 0 and 4096 determines the modality of the message box. Now let's see. Suppose a user is interacting with your phone, your message box, and he is pressing some button like OK, yes, cancel, abort or something. Then how would you know that which button he has pressed? Well, if message box returns this value, then you will be knowing that this button has been pressed. Now see, if he is pressing OK, then message box will return one value. And if you press cancel, then message box will return two values. Similarly, this all value will be returned based on the pressing method of that user. So in this example, we are using two message box function. What is the first message box function? Where we wanted to show the welcome. We are not giving any title. We are not saying that you have to assign that much button to this message box. Simply we are showing welcome. Now in the next button, we wanted to show do you like blue colors. We wanted to give 3 buttons, as well as we wanted to show our title as a choose options. So let's see what will be the output of that. If you will recall, you must be knowing that if you press OK button, then 1 will be returned by this message box. So here we wanted to see like what the user has pressed. So we are assigning the value of A is blank and A. So here we are going to execute this function. We'll be knowing what is the button has been pressed by the user. Well, the above function will be executed either by clicking run button or F5 window, or by calling a function into the Excel. So you can execute this function through F5 button, as well as you can run this program, or you can recall it into our Excel file by this formula name. So whatever the function name you are assigning, that will be your formula name. So let's dive into it and see. We have written here this function, so it will be considered as a formula by the Excel sheet. So is equal to message box demo, and there is a open and close parenthesis. Now the simple message box will appear and it will say welcome. Until the user press this OK button, it will not run another activity. So now suppose I have pressed this OK button. Now I have pressed this OK button. Now it has gone to the another message box where it will be showing do you like blue color, and what was our header? Choose option. So same options it is being showing, and we have already assigned that we wanted to see the 3 buttons on that message box. So these 3 buttons are showing yes, no and cancel. Now see, if we are suppose we are clicking on no, then what value it should return according to our logic which we have learned earlier? Well, it should return the 7 value. So same thing is happening here. It is returning the value of A is 7. Now let's move for the another chapter, which is input box. Well, I already told you about what is the input box and how this function works. So the input box functions prompts the user to enter values. After entering the values, if the user clicks the OK button or press enter on keyboard, the input box function will return the text in the text box. If the user clicks the cancel button, the function will return an empty string. So what is the syntax for that? Well, this is the syntax. You can see here. This is the syntax. This all is the syntax. It is similar to our message box function, and these are the parameters. So if you see the prompt is whatever you wanted to show through that input box, or whatever will be shown into that input box will be prompt. So now what is the title? Title is the header of that input function. So whatever you wanted to show into that input box message, the header you wanted to show through that input box message, the header title which will be called title, and you have to write it into the text form so that user will be able to know that what it is all about and what it is asking for. Now there is a default and optional parameter. You are asking some input from users. Well, if you are asking for the length, then you wanted to show the length in that particular input box. So if you write here in this parameter, the default parameter, then the text will be shown into that input box. So user will be able to know, okay, it is asking for the length. So here I have to enter the length only. The X position and Y positions. This is the optional. Well, if you don't put anything, the inbox will appear into center of this window. If you assign some value to X positions and Y positions, it will be considered from horizontal positions from left sides, vertical positions from the left sides. Now what is this help file? It is same as our message box help file. So if user wanted to see the help file regarding that particular input, then he can see by clicking on this help file. Now context is an optional parameter, and numeric expression. Again, this is the numeric expressions. You cannot write context in text form. You have to assign some number to it, and it will identify the help context number assigned by the help author to the appropriate help topic. If context is provided, help file must also be provided. Then only it will be able to execute. See this example. You wanted to find out area. So we have created this function find area. So we will be recalling this function through the formula logic. Now we are creating the variables. Dimension, dim is for the dimension length as a double is the type of the variables. In the same manner, we have also defined the width as a double. You wanted to show first the input box for the length, then you wanted to show the input box for the width. So we are showing the input box for the enter a length in our input box, and you want to show header as a enter a number. Same goes for the width, and we wanted to calculate the area where the area is equal to length into width. We can either run it through F5 function or we can call it through some formulae. So see what we are going to do. So here we wanted to call that function and calculate the area. So we are writing the function name is equal to find area. Now once we will write this formula, it will be asking for the length and the width. Once we enter the length and width, it will give us the calculated area. Now see, we have written this function. Now it will be executed, and it is showing as enter length and enter value. Now we are entering the value as a 7. Now width value we are entering as a 4, and we are clicking on OK. Now it is calculating the area. What is the 7 into 4? It is 28. So 28 it is showing into the Excel cell. This completes the theory parts. Now we'll move for the practical part. So I opened my workbook and I opened this Visual Basics by pressing Alt F11, and I went into insert and I have inserted one module here, and I have written the code for this message box. So what I am doing here, I am assigning message box value to A, and I am also wanted to show do you like blue color into the message box, and I wanted to show 3 options into that message box, and if you press any options, it should show the value of that particular options. Here I am writing the message box value of A is and A. So it will be showing whatever buttons I will be pressing. So here I'll be running this program and I'll be seeing what will be the output. How you can run this function? You can run this function in 3 ways. What are those 3 ways? First way is by pressing F5, or you can press this run button, or you can call it as a formulae. Well, you must be knowing that the formulae is some kind of function. So in the same manner, you can also call this function and perform your task. So we'll be looking after this all this thing. So first we'll be running it through F5. I have pressed the F5 button and it is showing me this thing. I'll be pressing no, and it should show me the value of no. So what is the value of no? No, the value of no is 7. So the value of A is the value of the no. So we have already learned whatever button the user will be pressing, the value of that button will be shown to the user. Now hit OK. Now we'll be running it through run button. So now we'll be running it through run button. Now it is showing again. I'll be pressing yes, and it will be showing the value of yes. What is the value of yes? It is 6. Now I'll be calling it as a formulae function. So I'll be calling here. What is the formulae? Message box. This is the formulae. This is the function actually. So function and formula are almost same. So you have to write it as a formula only, and it will be calling that particular function. So I'm just closing it. I'm hitting my enter button. Now it will be showing do you like blue color. So at this time I'll be pressing cancel, and it will be showing me the value of cancel as a. So the value of A is 2, means the cancel button value was 2. Now in this example we will be running the next functions. for input box where we wanted to find the area. So how we will be calculating the area? By multiplying length and width. So input will be taken from the users. So I have written this program where I have defined dim length as double. So what is this length? Length is variable. And what is this double? Double is the variable type. And what is this dim stand for? Dim stand for dimension. So we are declaring our variable that length is double. So length is the variable, and what is the variable type? It is double. In the same way, we have defined width also, and we are creating it through taking the input from the users. So length is equal to input box, enter the length, and it will be showing enter the number. Here is the syntax. I am writing length is equal to input box. Then open parenthesis, I am entering enter length, comma, enter a number. These are function which we are going to execute, and we are going to find out what is the area. We have defined length as double. So what is the length? Length is a variable. What is the type of the length? The type of the variable is double. Same goes for width also. Now we are creating the length. So we are taking the length from user input. So input box, it will be showing enter length, and it will be as a number. Same goes for the width. Now we'll be calculating the area through length cross width. So now I'll be running this program through this run button, and it is showing the length. I'm pressing 7, and now I'm hitting OK button. Now it is asking for the enter of width. So what the titles I have mentioned already in my input box also, the same is showing here also. Now I'm pressing my again the same width, which is the 4. Now what result it should give? It should give 28. See what it should give? It is giving nothing here. So function is not returning any value here. What if we will be writing this function in our Excel file? See what happens. You will be astonished by the results. Find area, this is our function. Now I am closing it, and I am hitting on enter button. It will be asking for the length. I am pressing again the 7. I am pressing OK button. Now again I am entering width as a 4. I am hitting OK button, and it is giving me 28. So now here it is returning some value, but there if you are running it through F5 or run button, it was not giving any value. So if you run this function in your Excel file, it will return a value. Thank you guys for watching this video.